So let's get right into it. We're looking at something incredible happening in Egypt, the birth of a gigantic new industrial city. But you have to understand, this isn't just a story about buildings and machines, it's really a story about massive global forces clashing right on the banks of the Suez Canal.
And that right there is the key. You have to see what's happening in Qantara West for what it is. It's not your average urban development project. No, this city is literally being forged in the fire of global competition and economic survival.
I mean, just look at the speed of this change. It's wild. Just 2 years ago, this land was completely worthless. We're talking nothing but salt flats and mud. Today, it's a humming, bustling city filled with Chinese and Turkish machinery. This incredible transformation begs the real question: why on earth are these global powers suddenly fighting over this one specific piece of land?
To answer that, you first have to understand the groundwork Egypt laid. See, they didn't just sit back and hope for investors to show up. They were incredibly proactive. They literally set the stage for this industrial explosion.
And they absolutely put their money where their mouth is. To get this whole thing started, the Egyptian government poured in over 2 billion Egyptian pounds. That's more than 60 million US dollars just for the initial infrastructure. And we're talking about a massive 1.5 million square meter area.
What Egypt did was basically create a plug-and-play industrial zone. They took this uninhabitable land, they treated the soil to get rid of the salt, they put in all the utilities, water, electricity, everything. They built a 42-kilometer road network inside the city and connected it all directly to international ports. They handed investors a ready-made platform for success.
And this gets to the core of their strategy, which is known as zero establishment cost. It's brilliant, really. Instead of investors having to deal with the nightmare of preparing land and setting up utilities, they can just walk in, build their factory, and get to work. It makes the whole deal incredibly attractive and super low risk.
So Egypt built the stage. The question is, who showed up to the party? Well, the two main players are China and Turkey. And believe me, they didn't come to Egypt by accident. They came for very specific, very urgent economic reasons.
This slide just nails their motivations. On one side, you've got Chinese companies who are using Egypt as a really clever workaround. See, if they manufacture here, their products get stamped Made in Egypt, which lets them sidestep those huge US tariffs on Chinese goods. Then on the other side, you have Turkish companies who are basically fleeing an economic meltdown back home, with crazy production costs and inflation over 80%.
But here's the thing. Despite their different problems, they share a lot of the same goals. They both see Egypt as the perfect gateway to Africa's enormous consumer market. They can tap into Egypt's free trade deals with the US and Europe, get all sorts of tax breaks, and get their products to Europe in just 4 days. It's a win-win.
But the real genius of Qantara West, the secret sauce, isn't just the location or the tax breaks. It's the revolutionary way the city is designed to operate like one giant, cohesive machine.
It's all built around this idea, an integrated supply chain. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means that every single thing you need to make a product, from the very beginning to the very end, is right there in the same city.
Just follow the flow here. It's amazing. Raw cotton arrives, it goes directly to the spinning and weaving mills. Then, right next door are the dyeing plants. Need buttons and zippers? The factories that make them are in the same neighborhood. Then, the final product gets assembled, packaged, and shipped out, all without ever leaving the city.
And the result of all this is just staggering efficiency. Companies can slash their cost by up to 40%. But maybe even more important, they achieve what's called zero import dependency. This model is so powerful, it's being looked at as a blueprint for how other nations can build their own world-class manufacturing hubs.
So what does all of this actually add up to? Well, the economic scale here is honestly a little hard to wrap your head around. So let's just break down the key figures.
First, just the sheer scale of it. The plan is to have 500 factories up and running in this zone in just the next 5 years. 500! And what we're seeing right now is just the very beginning.
And of course, all those factories, they need people. A lot of people. It's estimated they'll create 150,000 jobs, both direct and indirect, for Egyptians in the region. That's a massive number.
But this is the headline number. When it's fully up and running, Qantara West could add a staggering $25 billion to Egypt's national exports every single year. To give you some perspective, that's an increase of more than 50% over their current export levels. Just incredible.
And this isn't some far-off fantasy. You can already see the impact happening. As this chart shows, Egypt's garment exports were at $2.5 billion in 2023, with projects like Qantara West adding fuel to the fire that's projected to shoot up to $4 billion by 2026.
But okay, behind all of these enormous numbers, there's always a crucial human element. We have to ask, is this a genuine opportunity for the people of Egypt? Or is there a dark side to all this foreign investment?
And this really shows you the two sides of that coin. On the one hand, yes, you've got job creation, you have workers learning new skills from top-tier global companies, and you have real economic growth. But on the other hand, there's a serious risk that Egyptian workers just become cheap labor in a machine owned by someone else, raising real concerns about fair pay and protections.
Now, Egypt's government knows this is a risk. Their entire national strategy, called Made in Egypt 2030, is designed to prevent that from happening. The goal is to make sure that local Egyptian parts and materials make up 60% of the final exported goods. This way, the country becomes a true partner, not just a cheap assembly line. Inside the zone itself, you've got this fascinating rivalry playing out. The Chinese firms are all about speed and low cost to dominate the supply chain. The Turkish companies, they're leveraging their reputation for high quality and their deep knowledge of European markets to build premium brands. And the challenge for Egypt is to manage this competition so no one side takes over completely. And what's really amazing is that we're already seeing this vision pay off. Homegrown Egyptian brands born out of this new industrial power are actually starting to compete with giants like H&M and Zara in Europe and the Gulf. The dream of Made in Egypt is really starting to happen.
So, that brings us right back to where we started. Qantara West is a project with unbelievable potential. If it's managed the right way, it could truly change Egypt's entire economy. But the risks are just as big. It could easily become a new kind of economic colonialism, where a country's land and its people are used for foreign profit. This leaves us with that final crucial question. Is this a true opportunity, or is it something else entirely? The answer is still being written, right now on the banks of the Suez Canal.